I trust our intelligence agencies and the intelligence individuals that are within the Department of Homeland Security, that the individuals who are there are members and a part of this organization and have worked with them. And while we were there at that prison, we not only talked about how to identify these members of these terrorist organizations, but what they did, their actions they took, the case files we built on them, and how we verified that those individuals should be there in that prison. I'm very confident in the fact that those individuals that are there should be there, and that by belonging to these organizations, they were choosing to be on the side that wanted to destroy the United States of America.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem expressing confidence that her agency is only removing criminals from the U.S. On Sunday night, 17 additional men were deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador. According to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the U.S. military only transported violent criminals, including murderers and rapists with gang affiliations. El Salvador's president posted another video yesterday showing the men in restraints as they were let off a U.S. Air Force plane. According to a senior State Department official, 7 of the men are Venezuelan citizens, while the other 10 are citizens of El Salvador. Meanwhile, the Trump administration acknowledged in a court filing yesterday it inadvertently deported a Maryland man to El Salvador because of an administrative error, but that U.S. courts are powerless to order his return. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a Salvadorian national who came to the U.S. at the age of 16 in 2011 after fleeing gang threats in his native land. According to Politico, he was deemed by an immigration judge in 2019 to be a likely member of the MS-13 gang, a decision he sharply contested and that the government credited to information gleaned from a confidential informant. But the court also agreed at the time that he should not be deported to El Salvador, finding that his fear of being persecuted or tortured was credible. On Monday, attorneys for the government admitted that Abrego Garcia was deported accidentally. Although ICE was aware of his protection from removal to El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was removed to El Salvador because of an administrative error. Trump lawyers said the court has no ability to bring him back now that he is in Salvadorian custody. The man's attorney is asking the court to order the Trump administration to ask for his return and, if necessary, to withhold payment to the Salvadorian government, which says it's charging the United States $6 million a year to jail U.S. deportees. Trump administration attorneys told the court to dismiss the request on multiple grounds, including that Trump's primacy in foreign affairs outweighs the interests of the man and his family, and also noted that he was not likely to be tortured or killed in El Salvador. According to his attorney, Abrego Garcia has no criminal record, is married to a U.S. citizen, and has a 5-year-old disabled child who is also a U.S. citizen.
So John, you're covering the story, and of course, the judge in 2019, during President Trump's first term, said that if he went back to El Salvador, he was likely to be tortured, right?
Yes.
So he's in El Salvador right now, and they're admitting that they made a mistake. President has a very close relationship with the El Salvador government, Salvadorian government. Can't they just say, we made a mistake? We need...
please return this man.
Please return this man, and we'll process him correctly.
President Trump just yesterday took to Truth Social to praise the president of El Salvador, thank him for his help in his immigration policies. This is the first time the administration has admitted a mistake. This is not the first time that others have said there's been a case of mistaken identity. We've heard from other family members, other immigration activists who say, look, you've swept up some of the wrong people and deported them to this prison in El Salvador, which is known as a hell prison. And this, though, the Trump administration is saying, yes, we shouldn't have deported them there, but are claiming, and again, let's make clear, claiming that they have no ability to get him back. Now that's the crux of it now. The families, this man's attorneys are pushing to say that's ridiculous. Of course you can withhold payment. Reverend Sharpton, this is something where this man needs to be returned. He's committed no crime here in the United States. He has no criminal record. Police at the time, when he was first rounded up, they said they had no evidence he was a gang member, though an immigration judge said deemed it, quote, likely because of information they got later from a confidential informant. But the fact of the matter is, this is someone who has not committed a crime here in the United States other than being here illegally. And in defiance of court recommendations, the Trump administration put him to El Salvador and claims they just can't get him back.
And I think that this is the kind of example that those of us that resist this administration ought to really be amplifying, because you have to make people in Wisconsin, in Florida, understand that could be you. This guy has no reason to be in a jail in El Salvador. He's only there because of Trump's policies. And now the Trump people are saying we can't do anything about it, whether we believe that or not. I mean, how do you do that in the United States of America? And to say to a court, well, his interest, the president's, outweighs the family. Well, I thought the president's interest was to protect all the citizens of the United States. Here's a woman who's a citizen whose husband is there, admittedly for no reason. This is a threat to everybody, but you have to drive that to the public to understand.
First of all, no one believes that the Trump administration cannot get this guy back. If they actually want to get him back, they may not. They've been dictating the terms of this relationship with El Salvador from the beginning, paying $6 million to take all these alleged criminals. And I think the larger point, Joe, something we talk about, which most Americans say, if you have gang members who are here illegally committing crimes, get them out of the country.
Right.
People support that.
Nobody
but what
disagrees.
happens when you go in with a big net and scoop up a lot of people, in some ways indiscriminately,
No due process.
you're going to get stories like this.
Well, and this goes back to what we said the morning before Jeffrey Goldberg came on with the second signal info dump, which is sometimes the best political move, the smart political move, is to say we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Not going to do it again. In fact, we've learned from our mistake. And while we think this is a policy that most Americans want, and we said we were going to do, we made a mistake with this one gentleman. We're going to bring him back, and he's going to go through the correct deportation process, and he'll have due process, everything else. So, yeah, but to say we don't have the power, nobody believes that. So, again, sometimes it's just best to say, hey, we're doing a lot of stuff. We messed up. We're going to bring this guy back and do the right thing.
The problem is...
And Americans will say, okay, this policy, I support the policy, and they're admitting when they make a mistake.
The entire flights are in question because these people did not receive due process, and the judge, so there's a bigger issue going on about the entire group of men that were sent to El Salvador, and more being sent now. And now they're saying a mistake, but we can't fix it. My God. We'll be following this. We'll have much more
But again,
tomorrow.
the thing is, this is something
My God.
that, first of all, was promised on the campaign, but it was promised for criminals, right? Number one.
Right.
Number two, it is a policy that the overwhelming number of Americans support. So carried out in a way that will keep the overwhelming the Americans on your side. And when you make a mistake, admit it, fix it. And Americans are like, okay, they fixed it.